What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique. I am the hardest working man in sports and gaming, and this is the recap of UFC on ESPN 9, UFC Fight Night 173, however you want to call it. We're powered by Fight TV and presented by Bet Online. And yeah, it didn't go. It did not go. The main event did not go Tyron Woodley's way. As you can see here, he suffered a pretty lopsided loss. In case you have not heard what the entire breakdown is or what happened with the fight, Gilbert Burns dominated the fight from beginning to end. Wasn't the greatest day for predictions for me either. Didn't finish on the minus, but overall, definitely could have been more solid. And this fight was one of the reasons why. I got a lot to say about this main event, but yes, Gilbert Burns did win this fight by unanimous decision. I believe it was 50-45 twice and 50-44 on one card. So we'll go over that, but we are going to also take a look at, just basically look at all of the fights throughout the entire card like we do after every single UFC event. If you are just now tuning in, make sure you go ahead and click that like button and as well as the subscribe button if you have not done that as of yet. But let's jump right into the first fight, and we're going to go through this fight by fight throughout this entire card. Maybe we'll give people a little bit more time to get in here before we do that. I don't want to, the notification I'm sure just went out to our subscribers. Like I said, if you have not yet subscribed, make sure you do that so that you will know. And you also need to make sure you click the notifications bell so you'll know. Yes, and actually I'm just now getting the information on who got the fight of the night and who also got the performance of the night bonus. I'm a little bit surprised by one of these performances of the night because there were a lot of finishes, especially early on. But we'll talk about that shortly. But yeah, I want to know, while you guys are in the chat, let me know what you thought of the event. Did you enjoy it? You know, what how did you feel? How did you feel? Were you excited about the action? Did you think that it could have been better? Let me know when you get an opportunity to jump in there and tell me what were your thoughts, cuz I mean, it started off crazy, man. I mean, I'm telling you, it started off just off the meter. But it kind of definitely slowed down towards the end of the event. And, the action seemingly came to a complete halt almost. At least the double-sided action came to a complete halt in the main event when we saw Burns in there with Woodley. But let's see. Trying to give a little bit of time for people to come in here so we can start going over this. This is it's good to have the UFC back on a regular basis because next week you're gonna have UFC 250 headlined by Amanda Nunes and Felicia Spencer. Then you got another card each Saturday coming up after that. So it's always a good thing. All right, let's jump into it. The first card, or the first fight of the night, Chris Gutierrez against Vince Morales. We actually did call this one correct. It looked exactly the way I thought it would look. Chris Gutierrez, just a superior striker from the outside, beating up Vince Morales' legs with the leg kicks. Chris Gutierrez has big, huge, wide legs and calves. And as I mentioned in my preview, he comes out, with the ankles taped. And I don't know, man. It almost feels like he knows what his game is going to be with that lower leg kick. Look at the damage that he ended up doing to Vince Morales' legs. And this was like in the first round. It did not take long for this damage to really start kicking in. It was bad, man. And he just beat his legs up throughout the entire first round and ended up getting the first round finish. I mean, ended up getting a stoppage, actually, which was only the 10th stoppage by leg kicks in UFC history. So it was it was a dominant performance. But I figured that this is what we would see in this particular matchup. Now, jumping to the second fight of the night, and I'm certainly back in the cage. I got out of the cage for a minute. Sometimes I'm an uncaged man. The next fight was Luis Smolka against Casey Kenney. And this one started off interesting because Smolka came out and you could tell he had a game plan to go to the body, go to the body, go to the body. And he was doing it effectively. But the problem was that Kenney had a really solid answer for it, and it was to counter strike with combinations. And he started to really piece Luis Smolka up with some headshots, and one in particular, which turned out to be the definitive shot. I think it was in the second round. He caught him right behind the ear, and it disoriented Smolka, who actually looked great. Like, I remember watching him fight at flyweight, and I always thought he looked too frail. He looked so healthy fighting at bantamweight in this fight. But, you know, and it looked like he really was falling in love with his striking game, even though he's known primarily as a grappler. And that might have gotten him into some trouble because he got lit up there in the second round, stumbled, went back. They ended up in a ground, in a ground exchange. And Kenney was able to get that top position, lock in this one-arm guillotine, and he got a really quick tap. Kenney's a good fighter, man. I'm telling you, Kenney he's for real, guys. I'm really interested in seeing him. I keep seeing him go up and, go up in competition. He looks good. He did lose a tough fight to Merab Dvalishvili in his fight before this. But, I mean, when I watch this guy fight, especially live, I watch him fight, I'm always impressed. So I'm interested in seeing how this works out for him. He usually doesn't win by stoppage, so this one was interesting to see him get this win this way, but I thought it was a really strong performance for by him, and a tough loss for Luis Smolka. The next fight we saw was a really good one. Tim Elliott against Brandon Royval. And I'm gonna tell you, Tim Elliott, if he had employed a little bit more restraint in this fight, I think he probably would have got the victory. He came out like a house of fire in the first round. I mean, grappling, exchanges. He pushed that ground game like crazy. You could tell he really wanted to get this fight to the ground. And unfortunately for him, he was unable to get that done. Well, he was able to get it done, but Brandon Royval was really, really defending the submissions very well. He was staying pretty poised as well. I think he knew that he had an advantage in the stand-up, and I think also Tim Elliott knew, which is the reason why Tim Elliott wanted to fight off those sequences as much as possible. And he was able to do it through the first round, and I thought he had Brandon Royval just on, just backpedaling and just scrambling for his life for the most part of that first round. But he used so much energy in trying to get Brandon Royval in an early predicament and trying to get a submission early that he just gassed himself out. And you started to notice it a little bit at the end of the first round. And then in the second round, it was really, really bad. Tim Elliott went to his corner in the second round and he told his corner guys, he said, "I missed the crowd." And in my opinion, what I took that as is he was looking for somewhere to get some energy from, because he had gone so hard in that first round trying to control those grappling sequences, and he just gassed out. And Royval, who is actually pretty good on the ground, I've seen him before get into in his fight on the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. Well, actually, no, it was a fight he had in, I believe it was in LFA. Early on, got into a little bit of an issue on the ground, was able to fight out of that situation and stay poised. It's really important the way he's able to do that. And he did that, and he took advantage of a gassed out Tim Elliott and got the arm triangle choke. So we're out of the gate, man. We get nothing but stoppages early in this card. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. And this actually was the first fight that I predicted incorrectly, because I thought Tim Elliott would get him. I thought he would get him in the way he tried to get him in the first round, but I didn't know that he would go so wild and crazy with no regard for his gas tank at all. So kind of got me on that one. So the next one here was Jamahal Hill. This was my upset pick. I thought Klidson Abreu would be able to take advantage of Jamahal Hill's issues on the ground. He was not able to do that. I really felt that he waited entirely too long. I shouldn't even say he waited too long, because we're still waiting on it. Klidson Abreu never came out looking to take this fight to the ground. He got caught and hurt early in the fight, and even after he got caught and hurt, he never threatened a takedown at all. He stayed in kickboxing range against a guy who he had no chance in hell to win a fight with in kickboxing range. And it was really kind of amazing to me, because I saw Klidson Abreu comment and say, I'm going to take advantage of Jamahal Hill's grappling deficiencies. I said, oh, great idea, because you're clearly superior in that area. When they get into the octagon, oftentimes what they say they're going to do doesn't work out. Maybe it's because of the greatness of the person they're fighting. Maybe it's because they're, thinking too much and being too smart for their own good. Or maybe they have an intention to do it and something just changes mentally when they get in there. Either way, Klidson and Abreu had very little room for error when it came to the stand-up to just to begin with. Jamahal Hill's a very big, long, athletic striker. This is what he wants to do, and he's a better athlete than Klidson Abreu. I knew he needed to get Abreu down. He could not do that. Abreu got hurt early in the first round and got hurt again shortly after that, and it was a pretty easy TKO victory for Jamahal Hill in the first round. A knee to the midsection is what really set up the definitive end of this fight, and it just was crazy. And Scott Satout, hopefully I said that right. I see you in the chat. I am going to me and you are going to have a good conversation, because I could not agree with you more with what you're saying. I could not agree with what you're saying more. I normally don't even check the chat in the middle of the recap, but I wanted to see if somebody else was feeling the way I'm feeling. So I will not neglect what you just said. I promise you I have something to say once I roll around to the final fight here, going through this recap. See, Curie Ninja, you said, man, the majority of my picks were correct, but I was wrong about this one. Glad I didn't bet this one, as Elliott's defensive holes worried me. Royval looked good. Yes, he did look good. And I knew he would look good. I felt that Elliott would outwork him. I thought Elliott would be physically stronger, and I think all of those things were true. He just gassed. And I don't know why. I don't know what was. I mean, I know he went hard, but I've seen him go hard before. I saw him go hard against DJ. He didn't gas like that. And so I was a little bit surprised. Maybe it was a shorter training camp because of, quarantine and so on and so forth. I don't know, but he certainly gassed. This particular fight, we did get right on the predictions. We got Daniel Rodriguez over Gabriel Green. I will say this, we got them a little mixed up. We got to flip those sides. That's Daniel Rodriguez on the wrong side there, but the decision is on the right side here. Daniel Rodriguez is a fantastic fighter, man. He doesn't look like he is this elite level striker, but he has something where his timing, his ability to slip just enough to land a shot, all of those things, man, he has a really high skill level there. I give so much credit to Gabriel Green. He took this fight on like 3-4 days notice. He fought at 170 pounds when almost all of his careers fought at 155. He had 2 fights at welterweight coming into this fight, and he was 1-1, and he had lost his last time fighting at welterweight, and I think it was back like 4 years ago or something. I can't remember exactly how long, but I know he had very limited experience at welterweight. But this dude is tough as I don't know what. He came forward the whole time. He ate shots. His defense was actually a little bit better than I had seen him when I saw him fight Matt Leroy. I think it was for the California Extreme Fighting Catchweight Championship. It's something when a promotion has a catchweight championship. But yes, I mean, the dude came forward and he was super tough. I would love to see him fighting at 155 because honestly, he was a Hulk in there. You looked at his lats, his shoulders, his arms. He was huge up top. He didn't even look like he was like the smaller guy. But I know that he's made 155 so consistently. And with that level of toughness and with that pressure, I'm interested in seeing what he could do against lightweights. Because I just felt, even though I don't think he got hurt against Daniel Rodriguez, I figure maybe his power and his pressure would be more effective against 155 pounders. So I hope that he gets a chance to test out against 155 pounders in the UFC. I don't think this was like a shameful loss or anything like that. So I think he should definitely get an opportunity to fight again in the UFC. I mean, after all, he took this fight on 3-4 days notice. So I think he should have earned himself that opportunity to get another chance. So we'll see. The next fight was probably the biggest surprise of the card, in my opinion. And I'm not even saying that this fight, the way that Katlyn Chookagian completely dismantled Antonina Shevchenko, I'm not saying the result itself was the most shocking, but the manner in which she won. You have to point out to me the person who is going to look at these statistics, guys and girls. If you show me the person who would have predicted that Katlyn Chookagian would have come in tonight and beaten Antonina Shevchenko with a ground dominant approach. I mean, she came out from jump, went in, got the takedown, and literally dominated almost 5 minutes of top control in the first round. She outstruck her 20-3, and this was all strikes from the top to the top, from top position. Then in the second round, she gives her a little bit of time before she takes her down, still dominates 18-5. I mean, this was as much of a complete domination as you'll ever see. She did stand with her a little bit in the third round, but then ultimately ended up taking her down again. I mean, you want to know, if you want to find a picture that is the microcosm of an entire fight, it's this one right here. This is what this fight was like for Shevchenko for the entire time. I mean, it was just brutal, absolute domination. And I'm going to tell you something, the mind trick that this fight had to play on Antonina Shevchenko was amazing. Now, for those of you who don't realize it, Katlyn Chookagian's last fight was a championship fight against Valentina Shevchenko, Antonina Shevchenko's sister. Valentina absolutely destroyed Katlyn Chookagian, stopped her. Now, you turn around in your next fight and you fight her sister and you dominate her. So I'm looking at Antonina Shevchenko and I'm telling you, maybe this is actually more of a microcosm. Just prone on top of somebody in mount position, having them look absolutely helpless and in 100% distress. Maybe this is more of a microcosm of the fight. In any case, it was a absolute smashing. Katlyn Chookagian is almost entirely. I put this statistic in one of my previews. I don't believe that Katlyn Chookagian had even shot for a takedown at all in her UFC career coming into this fight. So if you tell me that you figured that Katlyn Chookagian would win this fight behind her grappling, then I know you must actually have been in her training camp before, and you must have some sort of knowledge about what her game plan was going to be, because I don't see how anybody else could. I mean, yet Katlyn Chookagian had never successfully completed a takedown in her UFC career. I'm actually looking at UFC stats right now, and I don't think she ever attempted one. So it's amazing that this was the game plan and how well it worked. Clearly, she caught Antonina Shevchenko completely off guard, and she never recovered mentally from what being taken down and dominated did in that first round. Fantastic game plan by Katlyn Chookagian and her team. Fantastic execution by Katlyn Chookagian. And man, I would not want to be Antonina Shevchenko tonight, going home and having a conversation with Valentina and just feeling that sibling kind of a thing that you're feeling. Valentina was not in her corner, which is the first time that's ever been the case in any of their fights, any of Antonina's fights since she's been in the UFC. Valentina's always been in her corner. I don't know if she wasn't there because there was some sort of COVID-19 restrictions for the amount of people to be in the corner, or if it was because Valentina is recovering from, I think it's knee surgery. I think she had an MCL, some sort of MCL surgery. So, which is the reason why her fight with Joanne Calderwood got pushed back. I don't know why she wasn't there, but I think Antonina might have needed her. It was tough out there. All right, our next fight is actually our first performance of the night victory winner, and it came from Mackenzie Dern. First of all, Mackenzie Dern looked fantastic today. I mean, I'm talking about physically, she was in great shape. Usually, she's a little fleshier than what you might want as a fighter. I mean, fine for walking around and, whatever if you're not fighting, but she's usually a little heftier. She's had some problems making weight, but she looked fit, just in great shape tonight. And she, early on, man, Hannah Cifers came out looking to get into it. And Hannah Cifers is very strong. She's 5'1", but you could see the physical strength, the core strength, the upper body strength. And she had some success early. And you can look at Mackenzie Dern here, and you can tell if you've seen her fight before, you know she normally she looks bigger than this. And you know, early on, Cifers was the aggressor, but she made a mistake. You do not go to the ground with Mackenzie Dern. You just do not. And she went to the ground. Mackenzie was actually on her back, and Hannah Cifers had an opportunity to step out of the situation, but instead she didn't clear her legs quick enough. And when you don't clear your legs quick enough against a Brazilian jiu-jitsu monster like Mackenzie Dern, you find yourself in a knee bar, and you find yourself on the wrong side of history, because this was the first ever leg submission by a woman in the UFC. And who else would have done it besides somebody like Mackenzie Dern, who has the type of Brazilian jiu-jitsu grappling resume just that would make anybody be like, wow. So Mackenzie Dern came in as the biggest favorite on the card, and she totally made good on that favorite status. All right, now we are into the meat of the main card, and this was a fantastic fight in my opinion. Just because there was a little bit of bad blood. Brok Weaver was the only fighter on the card that did not make weight. Roosevelt seemed to take some offense to that, and he said that Brok Weaver was talking trash after he didn't make weight, missed weight by 1.5 pounds, ultimately got fined 20% of his purse for that. And Roosevelt he's usually a much milder guy from what we've seen of him in the UFC, but he was amped up for this. He was talking trash to Brok Weaver the whole time. And as I suspected, he just had Weaver completely outclassed on the feet, on the ground as well. His longer reach, quickness advantage, athleticism advantage. He seemingly touched Weaver whenever he wanted to with the strikes, snapped his head back on several occasions with jabs and straight right combinations, straight right leads, all of it. In the first round, he nearly had a submission, but Brok Weaver used a pretty dangerous and unconventional escape by like literally spinning out of a choke. He could have hurt his own neck with the way he spun out of the hole, which is not at all how they teach you how to break that sort of hole. But he got out of it, so you can't say too much. But later in the next round, Roosevelt just took him to school. And he fought off the first choke, which seemed like it was pretty deep, but this one here just got too deep and too under the chin, and it forced Brok Weaver to tap out. And Roosevelt took I'm telling you guys right now, man. I'm telling you right now, this kid's got the look of somebody who could win a championship at lightweight. He's got the look. I wonder about him depending on which lightweight it is. Obviously, I think he's too slight to beat somebody like Khabib. Even, you know, obviously that matchup would be 3 or 4 years down the road, so you don't know who's what or what's what. I think he's just too slight, to beat. That's just not a good style for him, because I think Khabib just overwhelms guys, and you got to have a little bit more weight and heft, and you got to be able to stun him on the entry. And I don't know if Roberts is that kind of a striker with that kind of power. But with the right matchup and with about 2 to 3 more years of seasoning, I'm telling you, I see something significant with this kid. He's 6 feet tall, seems to make 155 without an issue. Maybe that'll change. Maybe he'll have to move up to 170 because the height, it'll just be tougher for him to make the weight. But I love what I see from him. He just looked dominant tonight, and did all of his trash talking in the right place inside the octagon and got it done. The next fight was our fight of the night, and I don't think anybody who saw this card can really dispute what these two guys winning that bonus. This was an absolute brawl, man. Spike Carlyle is great for the sport. He is just great for the sport. Now, he did come in. He was the one he knew was going to miss weight more than likely, so he asked for a catch weight with Billy Quarantillo. Billy Quarantillo. He made sure that we pronounce his name correctly moving forward. But Billy Quarantillo accepted the offer, and those guys went at it. Spike Carlyle came out very similar to the way Tim Elliott came out, just firing, just coming at him, throwing shots, jumping front kick, and I thought he took the first round and he was in control. But what we're seeing with these kinds of finishes is that it is a gamble. if you empty out your gas tank trying to get that finish in that first minute and a half and you don't get it and the guy or girl survives, it's almost like 9 times out of 10 the aggressor has pretty much gassed themselves out, and now you see that they're now vulnerable, and that's exactly what happened to Carlyle. Now, he lost this fight by unanimous decision, was 29-28 on all 3 cards, and it really could have gone either way, but he definitely won the first round. And in the second round was really, I would think, was what I would say was the swing round. That was the one that kind of could have gone either way. And in the third round, Quarantillo just blasted him. And he blasted him because Spike Carlyle was so taxed and so tired. He had nothing. He could only fight for like 2 to 3 seconds at a time. And Quarantillo was tired too, but not so much that he couldn't work. And he finished the fight just landing some absolute titanic bombs like this one here against Carlyle against the cage. And Carlyle's tough as ever, bro. This kid is tough, and he wouldn't go down, but he did lose the unanimous decision. But this was a war. I mean, these guys rumbled for 15 minutes, and it was a great fight. And if this fight had been had in an arena with fans around, oh my God, it would have been amazing. It would have been crazy. In the co-main event, we saw Augusto Sakai get a narrow victory over Blagoy Ivanov, and there was some stink in the game with this one. First of all, Blagoy Ivanov can't get a break. I mean, he can't. In his last fight, he lost a really close decision to Derek Lewis. I thought he won that fight. I'm not going to say I thought he won this fight, but it could have definitely gone either way. And proof of that is what the judges' scorecards were. One judge actually scored it 30-27 for Blagoy Ivanov, and the other two gave it 29-28 for Augusto Sakai. So it really could have gone either way. But there was a moment in the third round where Blagoy Ivanov had closed distance against Augusto Sakai, and he was securing a takedown. And I'm telling you, Augusto resorted to one of the most egregious fence grabs you're ever gonna see. I'm talking about, like, I'm falling, suddenly I'm not. I mean, it was about as blatant a fence grab as you can do. The referee, I believe it was Jason Herzog, didn't see it. And so there was no point taken. There was no position given up. He was able to avoid the takedown. And that was huge, because if the referee had saw it and saw how egregious the fence grab was, he might have taken a point away from Sakai. It was that bogus, if you guys didn't see it. It was that tough to watch. And so he could have gotten the point taken away. If nothing else, he could have been taken down, and who knows, maybe Blagoy, dominates that round, takes that round, or what have you, and gets and then if he takes a point, then the round, and you still give it to Sakai, then the round is scored 9-9 and would have been a majority draw, because 2 judges would have had it a draw, and the other judge would have had it for Blagoy Ivanov, and that's a majority draw. But say Ivanov completes that takedown, takes control of the round, and wins the round, then now he wins a unanimous decision, 30-27, 29-28 twice. So it was a very big non-call. But all of that said, Sakai did look good. He has strong striking, diversified striking, especially for a heavyweight. He's only 29 years old, tough to take down, and very good at guarding against those inside trips and things like that Blagoy Ivanov is really good at doing and good at pulling off. But Blagoy suffers because he's short. He's 5'11". It's tougher for him to get in and close distance. I would love to see what would happen if he was fighting at light heavyweight. I don't know, maybe his lack of speed would be an issue. He may not have the same type of transformation that Jared Cannonier had when he dropped down in weight. He maybe just doesn't have the speed. Maybe heavyweight is the right spot for him. But he's 5'11", around 250, and he can connect, but it seems like it's always on the ends of punches, and not, maybe people aren't taking the full blunt. And I don't know if that's because he can't get inside to land the shots. I'm not sure, but he lost his fight via split decision. Now he's on a 2-fight losing streak, which is a really tough look. But Augusto Sakai has now won 6 in a row. Came into the fight ranked. He might break into the top 10. He could very well be 2 wins away from a championship. This is the heavyweight division, and it could go that way. Obviously, we got to clear up what's going on with Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier, but he could be that close to a title shot. All right, now let's go to this main event. All right, Scott, I told you I would have something to say to you about this. Sean Singletary said, I'm looking forward to watching this in the morning. Good night. Appreciate you popping through, Sean. He said he did pick Burns, felt he was up and coming, and Woodley was on his way down, and you proved to be correct. Quincy Panola said, wow, good pick. A good pick. Did you pick Burns? Yes. Roosevelt is legit. Bet Sakai. Sakai was using a push straight kick. Yes, he was using a push straight kick, and he was using it pretty effectively. But Scott Sitout, I said I would respond and talk to you specifically. I'm going to tell you right now, and I don't hide, like, you know, I'm a sports writer. I've been covering combat sports for over 11 years. But everybody who covers the sport started off as a fan of the sport. Just about everybody, right? That's the whole reason you get the concept. And if you're a fan of the sport, you're probably a fan of certain fighters. I don't hide the fact that I'm a fan of Tyron Woodley. He's one of my favorite fighters. Not the best fighter, but he's one of my favorite fighters. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you are a fan of Tyron Woodley, it has to be the most frustrating person to be a fan of in the world. Because Woodley, it's one thing to lose a fight just because you went out there, you gave your all, you did everything you could do, and the guy was just better than you. You know, that happens. The guy or the girl was just better. It happens. But when Woodley loses, he loses with a level of timidity and passiveness that makes you say, well, what would have happened if you had actually fought? What would have happened if you had actually thrown shots? Woodley came out in the first round of this fight. He had, he looked like he was ready. He had the right type of posture. Everything seemed calm, poised, but he got caught with a big right hand, got dazed. Gilbert Burns gets on top of him, opens up this cut on his forehead, right above his left eye, and just goes to work. Cuts in a bad place. It's a bad cut. I know he feels it. And he just pretty much beat Tyron down for the first round. Tyron was able to escape the submissions against one of the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners in the world. He was able to escape any submission loss. He was able to get to his feet with just an absolute pure power athletic move. We just stood up and took advantage of just the slightest opening that a lot of guys wouldn't have even been able to take advantage of because they're not as athletically blessed as Woodley. But he gets up. And I understand in the first round, after getting battered for, the first 3.5, 4 minutes of the first round, getting cut, getting dropped, I understand being a little tentative for the rest of that round. You say, you know what? I lost this round. I'm going to give this one up. Maybe it's a 10-8 round. I need to go back into the corner. I need to talk to my team. I need to come back out with another game plan. We're going to come back out aggressive. His corner pretty much told him that. Woodley comes out in the second round, and I'm telling you, he fights like he's up. Literally. He fell into that same sad shell and that same sad tendency that he has of skirting the octagon fence with his back on the fence, going left to right, left to right, left to right. And then he puts his back heel against the fence and stands there and digs his potatoes like he's jumping rope. Jumping double dutch or something. And he's just waiting. And everything is based on, I want you to make a mistake so I can throw this counter right hand. It's like, this is what you're doing. And you end up throwing nothing. And I'm telling you, if there is ever in the history of mixed martial arts been a worst come from behind fighter in the world, I don't know who it is. Tyron Woodley's whole entire approach of fighting once something goes bad is the worst you could ever have. It can't get any worse. He literally goes into a shell, and I'm going to use a boxing reference to kind of expound on this, right? Zab Judah is one of the people you've heard the term front runner, right? Zab Judah got that label. And it's because that, for people who don't know what that term means, front runner is a person, an athlete, somebody who, when they are ahead, they look like world beaters. They look like nobody can stop them. Nobody. But when something goes wrong, the wheels come off every way. Every way possible, the wheels come off. That is what Tyron Woodley is. That is why when you fight Rory McDonald, when you fight Kamaru Usman, when you fight Gilbert Burns, and things start going bad early on, you go into this timid shell, backing up. And what blew me? We're in the 5th round of a fight that you have literally lost every single round. And I know you lost because these were not close calls. We're in the 5th round of a main event. Your first fight since you lost your title to Kamaru Usman last year. So it's been a year since you fought. And you're lost all the rounds. You're in the 5th round in control in a standing grappling situation against the fence. And the referee has to separate you from the guy who's been beating your tail for over 20 minutes. And the referee has to separate you because you're not working. How is that? How does that work? I don't understand how that works. Like, if you, and you know what? Some people say, well, you don't fight. You don't know. Well, you know what? You're right. I don't fight. I'm not fighting. I mean, I fought before, but I'm not a professional fighter. But you chose this job. And you're just gonna, the lack of, I'm telling you, man, he's 38 years old. He turned 38 in April. And he gotta really, because here's the thing with Tyron. He's been too high in this sport to just be a guy. Right? You've been a welterweight champion. You defended it 3-4 times. You've been too high to just be a guy. Because if you're just going to be a guy, you might as well do something else. You might as well do something else, because this effort today and the effort against Kamaru Usman was just subpar. And I know a lot of people don't like it when you criticize the performance of a fighter. They want to separate it, but they'll criticize the performance of LeBron James or criticize the performance of Mike Trout, criticize the performance of Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or somebody who plays a team sport. But when you criticize a fighter, you're going wrong. No, they're all athletes. They're all in the sport, and they're all required to come out and perform. And when they don't perform, they're open to criticism. That's what this is about. That's what sports are. And this performance, this effort was just poor. And so, Scott, I am on the same page with you. I'm going to tell you, I wrote up my recap already for Forbes, and I came out, and the first thing that I say, the first line in my recap is, Gilbert Burns looks like a legitimate title contender, and Tyron Woodley has to strongly consider retirement. That is the first line of my recap. And because I really truly believe that he's at that point where he had to ask himself that question. Like, there was a time where I felt that, he'd probably smash Colby Covington, because I said, Colby just doesn't hit hard enough, and I don't think that he can back Tyron up, because I don't think he punches hard enough. But, man, with the gas tank and the work rate that Colby Covington puts on people, I don't care, you can hate him all you want. Colby Covington's not my favorite guy. But with the gas tank and the work rate that Colby Covington has, if you're sitting up here and you think that Tyron Woodley would beat Colby Covington, you are sadly mistaken. Not this Tyron Woodley. I don't know which one would, but it ain't this one. It ain't this one. It ain't this one. So it is just, he'd have a better chance against somebody like Leon Edwards, who is much more measured, not a high work rate guy himself. He'd have a better chance against somebody like that. But what does that really do? You're Tyron Woodley. You're Tyron Woodley. What does that really do? So I don't know, man. I don't know. You guys let me know. And what are some of the things that stood out about this event to you tonight? Just overall, what stood out to you? If you want to know my prediction record, I think it was my worst one in the last 2 months. I was only 6-5. Got 6 up, 5 down. Tyron was one of them. Just a shameful performance, in my opinion. Just a shameful performance. Because I had, what did I have? I had Gutierrez winning by unanimous decision. He ended up getting a stoppage victory. I had Kenney winning by unanimous decision. He got a stoppage victory. I had Tim Elliott beating Brandon Royval. That didn't work out. I had Abreu upsetting Jamahal Hill. That didn't work out. I did have Rodriguez beating Green. That happened. I had Shevchenko beating Chookagian. That didn't happen. I had Dern winning by submission in the first round. Got that right on point. I had Roosevelt Roberts beating Brok by submission. Had that one right on point. Had Billy Quarantillo defeating Spike Carlyle. I had him getting the stoppage in the third round because I knew that Carlyle would slow down. He didn't get the stoppage, but he did get the victory. I thought Blagoy Ivanov would win by a split decision. He lost by a split decision. And I foolishly had Tyron Woodley winning by first round TKO. I thought he would catch Burns, and it did not happen. It did not happen. So it is what it is. As a matter of fact, it looks like they might have early on. I thought they had Spike Carlyle winning fight of the night, but now it looks like they're flipping it around, and it's like Brandon Royval. Maybe they gave Brandon Royval they gave Brandon Royval the fight of they gave him the fight of the night, and I'll give you a little bit of an insight on that. Brandon Royval was in tears after the fight because he felt that he did not have a good performance, and he wanted to get that $50,000 bonus so that he wouldn't have to go back to work tomorrow. And so he was just not happy with his performance. Just felt like it was subpar. And yeah, so he does get the $50,000 bonus. So hopefully that helps him out. And I totally understand where he's coming from. You know, we did a segment on the show yesterday about how, you know, underpaid and underappreciated some of the fighters are. But I also did say, hey, you know, you got to think about it. I know, you know, you might not want to go to work tomorrow, but there's people actually who wish that they could go to work tomorrow because of this whole situation that shut them down. Maybe they're on furlough. Maybe they just got flat laid off. So having to go to work tomorrow is not the worst thing in the world. So, and you did just make about $10,000 a day, even though probably only going to clear about $3,000 to $4,000 of it after he pays everybody. But still, just another perspective, essentially. So, yeah, but Scott says he needs to retire. He's just embarrassing himself at this point. He says he's literally turning into Ronda Rousey right before our eyes. Yeah, just like that deer in headlights kind of a thing, you know, that Ronda had towards the end. But Ronda, the thing about Ronda, though, with Ronda, it was like she realized that the rest of the mixed martial arts world, the rest of the women's division had caught up with her. That's what it looked like. And it looked like she literally just lost the fire to train and that hunger and to get better. It was like, okay, my plan A is better than everybody else's plan A, B, and C. And I don't necessarily need to be a fantastic striker because I've never fought anybody who had an answer for my plan A. And if she still had the hunger for the sport, maybe she tries to evolve as a striker. She's not like, you know, a fantastically fluid athlete who's got that skill level with to incorporate the head movement and slipping stuff. She's not that kind of an athlete anyway. But she just didn't really evolve at all in that standpoint. If you ever looked at Ronda Rousey's striking defense numbers, they were always bad. It was just that she would get the fight to the ground so quickly that it wouldn't matter. But she always absorbed a pretty decent amount of shots. So her head movement was never good. So I don't think that's what's happening with Woodley. I think with Woodley, it's almost like he needs a sports psychologist or something. And at 38 years old, I just don't even know. I don't even know. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. It was just a shameful performance, in my opinion. Just shameful. And I feel for him to a degree because I know this is not what he wanted. And, you know, you could tell he worked to get himself in shape. I mean, Woodley walks around 200 pounds. To cut down to 170 is not like a walk in the park. I know it isn't. But I don't know what happens to him in the octagon where he just flips the inactivity switch and just literally accepts defeat. That's just literally what happens. He just says, I'm going to accept defeat. You're not going to stop me, though. That it looks like that's what he says to himself. I'm going to lose, but you ain't going to stop me. Okay. Okay. All right. I guess if that's the extent of what you want, then hey, it is what it is. But I don't have anything else on this card, guys. I certainly appreciate everybody watching and chiming in and going through the each fight with me. If you have not yet liked the video, please do. It does definitely mean a lot. Helps the channel grow, and helps us to kind of get more circulation out there. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please do that as well. Did I say like the channel or like the video? I meant like the video. And also, if you haven't subscribed, please do that and click that notifications bell as well. I did put in case you missed me going through each fight, you can always go back and look, but I also put the results of every fight in the description of the video this time, so you can kind of just go through there. It even has the methods of victory and the scores if the fight went to the judges, so there's a little extra wrinkle I decided to add for this one. It's almost like a time stamp, so to speak, but not really. It's a time stamp without the time, so I guess it's just a stamp. But at any rate, I do appreciate you guys watching, of course, and God bless and peace.